Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's Rained Out Rantcast. I'm your host, Chris. On today's episode, I've got author Micah Dank. He's here to talk about his six-part series called Into the Rabbit Hole. It's now available on Amazon. We'll talk a little bit about the first book that's out now called Beneath the Veil. We talk about astrotheology, mythology, the Bible, and a range of esoteric topics. Enjoy. We're here with Micah Dank. He's the author of the series Into the Rabbit Hole, and he's got the debut book Beneath the Veil is available now on Amazon and other places. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a
Yeah,
little bit
sure.
about books?
So that's true. Beneath the Veil is out there, but my second and third book are also out in public now
Oh
too.
yeah,
So I have so I have 1 through 3 out. It's a 6 book series.
sweet. Where all can people get that book at? Or the three
so
books?
so you can go to you. So here's the thing: you can go on Amazon.com, Barnes and Noble, wherever you get the books, Apple, whatever you want to do,
Mhm.
or you could find me at Twitter and Facebook at Micah Dank. And if you want signed copies or you want to get digital copies through me, we work something out. You just shoot me a message or follow me. I'll reach out to you, and then we can work something out. Because I do send signed copies too.
Sweet, sweet, yeah. Because that Amazon's gonna take their pennies from there, right?
Oh yeah.
Take their fucking cut. So what's the series about?
So it's about something called Astro. Well, they're very Dan Brown like. Okay, the
Yeah.
books they're very Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons type stuff. The first 2 books are about the Jesuits and the Roman Catholic Church and their what they've actually hidden. And the second book is about also the capstones of the pyramids. But basically, it's all about something called astrotheology, which is basically just the science behind the zodiac. This is the
Yeah.
best way that I could describe it. It's like the mythology of the zodiac.
Yeah. And what how deep does it go as far as it's basically the symbolism?
Yeah, it's the symbolism. I go into Bible codes.
Mm,
There's plenty of codes out there that are astrotheology or astrology or astronomy in nature
mhm.
in the Bible that people don't even realize that they're there, but they're hidden. And my book series is basically just to expose this.
Yeah, to me, the Bible to me is astrologically metaphorical,
Right.
right? Uh
Yes.
the Old Testament seems to be about because do you go through the old all the way through the new or
Oh, yeah. I give examples of the old and the new. I go into Revelation. I go into Deuteronomy, the book of Job, the book of Genesis. Absolutely.
sweet, sweet. So what so tell us a little bit about the how the symbolism of the zodiac it plays into the Bible there.
Yeah. So what I would have to do is I'd have to go through the first 12 signs of the zodiac, or the 12 signs of the zodiac, I should say. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So I'm just going to go over this. So the we'll start with Aquarius, which is represented by the man with the water pitcher. Then Pisces is the sign of the 2 fish in the water. Then Aries is the ram. And in Aries, you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox, which is a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. It's also the Passover, or astrotheologically speaking, it's the passing over of the sun over the equator and back on its way to its height at the summer solstice. In Christianity, the Passover is changed and called the resurrection of God's Son, S-U-N. So it's 2 different sayings, but it means the same thing.
Yeah, there's a
You
lot
know,
just going on in the Passover there. Yep.
yeah. It's why the Jews smear the lamb's blood on the door to protect them from God's wrath, because they're the people of Aries. It's why they blow the ram's horn at the sky, because that's the ram in Aries. It's Aries worship. That's what it is. Then
Yeah.
Taurus is the bull.
Yep.
And when you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season, you see Taurus in the sky, then you know you're supposed to put the plow on the bull because that's the time where you're supposed to.
And you're talking the
Um,
constellations. When you see Taurus
right,
constellation in the sky, that's
exactly. Exactly. So you're supposed to put the plow on the bull when you see the bull in the sky so that you can plant the seeds so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. I'll get back to that in a minute. But Gemini is the two signs of the twins. Cancer is the crab. It's the sideways moving creature. So what the sun does is it rises a degree on its axis starting on December 25th. It stops on June 21st. And then for 3 days, it rises at the same exact degree. So technically, it's moving sideways. And then on June 25th, it lowers a degree and then continues to lower a degree until December 21st, which is the winter solstice. December 21st is the lowest that the sun is ever going to get. And then for 3 days after that, it stays at that low point, which is why they said God's son was dead for 3 days.
yeah,
And
like
then it comes, yeah,
basically Horus or Ra or whatever goes to the underworld too, because it's all this like double entendre stuff, right? It's
right, exactly.
in their mythology, the sun's going to the underworld during that time, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then on December 25th, his birthday, he comes back up a degree and then he continues to rise. So that's what the sun does every single day.
Yeah. Yep. The sun, yep. It sets and right. I mean, it could be seen as it dies and it's reborn every day, basically.
Exactly.
New life. It gives life. I mean, just the sun alone, the fact that you can absorb vitamin D from the sun. That's the biggest source of vitamin D is the sun itself. That to me is just wild. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that stuff
Mm-hmm.
can get through the air. It gives you vitamins. It gives you substance. It. Yeah. I mean, this is what it's all about.
Right. Exactly. So the next sign is Leo, which is the king. Leo is the king. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So when God's in his kingdom, they're talking about the sun in Leo. Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. So you remember before when you say you plant in Taurus?
Hmm.
Well, basically in Virgo, the virgins would come out and cultivate the wheat. That's why it's the woman holding the wheat stalk. And what they do is they would make the bread at that point. Then Libra is the justice, the scales, the balance, the just one. And the reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter. And the Jews always celebrate the new year around the fall equinox. Libra is also wine season. So when you plant for the grapes in Taurus, you harvest them in Libra and then you make the wine. So you have the bread and the wine, which are the symbols of Christianity, which is Virgo and Libra. Also, Libra is the scales, it's the balance, it's the judge one, it's the judgment, it's the judgment. So that's why the Jews have their Day of Atonement, which is Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, that they're being judged
Hmm.
in Libra too. So Scorpio is the scorpion, and he's known as the betrayer. And the reason he's the betrayer is because when a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like two lips. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death, and it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss, because Judas is Scorpio and Jesus is the sun. So the sun is judged in Libra and it's betrayed in Scorpio. And finally in Sagittarius, it's the guy on the horse with the bow and the arrow, shoots the bow and the arrow into the sun and kills it. In the Bible, it's translated as a spear going into the side of God's son. And I'll show you the passage where that comes from. And this is where the sun dies. And we already went over December 21st in Sagittarius being the death of the sun, right? And then it's dead for 3 days, and then it comes back to life December 25th. That's the first day of Capricorn. And Capricorn is the goat. So those are the 12 signs. So do you have any general questions?
No, I the the Judas kiss. I always seen Jesus as a shapeshifter. So
Really?
I always think weird. I think we're at a simulation too. So yeah, yeah. With the
We
walking on,
could we could be in a simulation, but I'm fully confident that 99% of the people in the Bible were never existed. They're just stories.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They didn't exist. They didn't exist, but I feel he's somewhat portrayed as a shapeshifter.
In what way?
And then with with oh, now I just lost my train of thought there. Oh, Zeus and Jesus, right? They have this. They share parallel stories, right?
Right. Well,
Interesting.
Jesus shares a parallel story with Osiris, with Horus,
Yes,
with
yes, with many deities, and I know that Zeus he shapeshifts because he turns into a white bull to take Europa, right?
Mhm.
And ah, there was a script that was found, a scroll that was found in like 1912, I think it was.
Okay.
That I had it written down. I can't remember the name of it. Uh, J.P. Morgan was digging for excavating in Egypt, and they found this 1400-year-old scroll, Siri, I think it was,
Oh, I'm not sure.
and he explained having a dream or having a vision of Jesus uh, transforming into an eagle.
Well, that makes sense
And I feel like
because,
the soldiers, the Roman, they didn't know what Jesus looked like because he could change forms, and Judas had to give him a kiss to.
huh? Well, if you're talking about the eagle, you're
And
talking about Jesus as the sun being in different signs.
mhm.
The scorpion, in metaphysical astrology, its evolved form is the flying eagle.
Yes, yes, on microaggressions with Charlie Robinson, I heard you say something about that, and that's
Right.
when I looked up Habib Nurmagomedov. I can't say his fucking name, but Habib from the UFC, and because he's known as the Eagle, the Golden Eagle, and
Oh, the flying eagle.
the
He's
Flying
known as the
Eagle.
flying
Yeah,
eagle.
the Flying Eagle, and he's a Scorpio, and I just found that interesting that you said that,
Yeah.
and then thinking about the Jesus or Judas kissing Jesus in it was in the house of Scorpio, right? Was
Yep.
That's
No,
another.
no, 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 no. It doesn't matter that it was in the house of Scorpio.
Well, it's just
Well,
the
it metaphorically
symbolism
would.
there.
Jesus is the sun, and he's in the house of Scorpio. He's being betrayed.
Yes, and also metaphor with the scorpion be able to transform into the eagle or kind of the phoenix because the eagle is basically the phoenix, right?
Now, the eagle transforms again into the phoenix,
Okay, okay,
and
okay.
the phoenix is the story of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
born. It's on fire, just like the sun. It dies into its own ashes, and then it's reborn.
Yes, and
It
it
comes
gets
back to life.
and the Bible's all about the light and if you get even
He's the light of the world. You know
yes,
that he's the light of the world.
yep, and whose God is it? Back Jordan Maxwell, he said I heard him when he said, "Whose son is it? It's God's son." So I mean, it's right there. And then if you take it even further back and you get into like the Canaanites and how they worshipped El, uh,
Right.
that being Saturn as God.
Well, it goes even further than that. Michael, Rachel,
Yes,
Ezekiel.
all of
I can
those
give you
are Els.
hundreds of names with L at the end of it.
Yep, yep. All of those are L's. I was reading Enoch, and yeah, all the L's. Those are most of the names in Enoch are L names, right?
Hmm.
Yep, yep. It's
Absolutely.
very deep, and like, what's more about the story, how it ties in with the book and the characters that you wrote?
Oh, in my book series,
Yeah, you want.
so there's biblical codes that they uncover that basically cryptograms and anagrams. They're biblical passages that they decode
All
as they
right.
go along. And so they have storylines each book, of course. They're fiction stories,
Hmm.
but the codes that they uncode are true biblical codes, like undeniable biblical codes. I can go over some.
All right.
So, did you hear me on Charlie talk about pride comes before the fall?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so explain it to your listeners what that means. If you were to take it literally.
If you were to take it literally, is your pride comes that just pride or hubris, I guess, comes before your fall as far as being prideful and just big. You're bound to fall, I guess.
Right, exactly. But a group of lions is called a pride also.
Mhm.
And lion is Leo. And Leo is in July, August, which is before the fall. So you see how that's built into it?
Yeah.
Kind of like it's kind of like underneath the first meaning.
Yeah, that's just when you get into this stuff and you start to understand it, and then you take it further and you start to understand like etymology and where the
Yeah,
words come from, and then you realize like how many layers there are just of everyday words. You know
right,
how just in the word "the" is almost a worship, almost a praise to God in itself. In Spanish, the word "the" is what? El, right?
right.
Just in that everyday language, and in Spanish,
L
Jesus
is the male. L in Spanish is the male. It's the male form, right?
exactly God
El Capitan.
man, yes, the male form, the bull, basically, because the bull is the male, the bull is the God, the bull is the male spirit, right? And then you
Right,
have
and uh, everything goes back to the bull worship in the earliest forms. You can go to the Egyptians.
yep.
Their hieroglyphs. They have bulls
Right now, it's like where the
with their
ox
horns
is.
and with
Yep.
bulls with their horns and the sun in between it. Because I'm telling you, they're worshiping the sun in Taurus because the Egyptians were the people of Taurus.
Mhm.
Whereas we're the people of Aquarius and the end of Pisces.
Yeah, I it's same as like in Spanish, Jesus, it's Jesus, and Jesus
Right,
and Zeus are, they come from, if you pass that story down and down, it's just a retelling of the same story.
exactly. Another one is in the book of Micah, which is my namesake. He predicts that the Savior will come from a town called Bethlehem. And in Hebrew, Bethlehem is two words. It's Bet, which means house, and Lechem, which means bread. Well, we just went through the 12 signs. The house of bread is Virgo, the virgin. So the Savior will come from a virgin. So you see how that's kind of just slid in there too?
Yeah, and Bethlehem bread is also a symbol for God itself. So I mean,
Yep.
just the house of God. Jesus was born in the house of
Hmm.
God. Jesus, and back to because the zodiac, you're talking about the animals. It's the animal house, the zodiac. It's literally in the
Yeah,
name there, the zoo. And Jesus was born in a house, and each house is what 30 degrees is.
correct.
Um, and just the story of Jesus being born in a manger. The word manger has ang in it, ang being the bull, uh, being born in a stable. I mean, it's it's all so metaphorical, and people take it literal,
Right,
and there's wars and bloodshed over it. It's
right.
it's pretty
It,
wild,
yeah, it's unfortunate, is what it is.
and it
The fact that
comes
people take this stuff literally.
down to straight sun worship, sun worship. Uh, I mean, just in the name, in the word religion, you have Re, which is Ra, which is the sun, right?
Hmm.
Legion of Re. It's a sun legion. Uh,
Right,
which doesn't like faith and religion to me. That's two different things there. I mean, people can have faith in a higher power, or God, or whatever helps them get through the day and be a better person. But
yeah.
religion is used as a control mechanism.
Hmm. That's what it is. It thumbs it down.
Yeah, and people take it completely literal. It's been transcribed and muddied up for thousands of fucking years.
It's very true.
You got other scriptures there?
Yeah, of course. One sec. They're going to get a little longer though, so I'm going to actually have to read these directly. Hold on. So I'm going to give you an example. Well, you can go by the names of God too. I mean, the names of Jesus, right? You have Capricorn, which is the goat,
Mhm.
and he's called the scapegoat of Israel.
Yeah, and in
You have the
Capricorn, that's in what constellation? Capricornus? Cronus? I think it
okay,
is. Is the full name of it, I think? Capricornus. But Cronus is right in the name of Capricorn,
right.
being the sun.
You have the man sign, which is Aquarius, the man with the water pitcher. He's known as the son of man.
Mm-hmm.
You have Pisces, the two fish. He's known as the fisherman of men. It's also why he fed the masses with two fish. He fed them with two fish and 5 loaves of bread. He multiplied them. Two fish is Pisces, and the loaves of bread are Virgo with the wheat stalk, and they're opposing signs. So that was chosen on purpose. And the ram in Aries, he's known as the Lamb of God. In Leo, he's known as the Lion of Judah. The lady holding the stalk of wheat in Virgo, he's born of a virgin, and he's called the bread of life. You have Libra, which is the scales of justice. He's known as the just one. And it's why he's worshipped on the sun day. The
Mhm.
sun day, because he represents the sun.
Yeah, it's right there. And the start of the week is actually Sunday.
Yep.
That the Sabbath is for Saturday.
Right. That goes back to Saturn worship. That's the
Mhm,
Saturn day.
mhm. And Mondays after the moon, moon,
Mm-hmm.
menses, menstrual cycle comes from the word menses, right?
Right. Yep.
The word sin comes from moon itself, just from men, and that's where you get the word lunatic, and just from the lunar poles of.
Right.
I love etymology and this type of shit. Even though we might be in a simulation and there might not be any fucking space. That might be why it's called a constellation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if the shit's all up and we're not in a simulation, I love this shit.
Yeah.
you know,
I think it's real, to be honest with you. In
the
Deuteronomy
simulation.
30, in Deuteronomy 32, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to read this to you, and you're going to be able to pick out all the signs just by what I've told you so far. It says he gave them honey from the cliffs and olive oil from the rocky ground. He gave his people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs and goats. They had the best rams from Bashan and the finest wheat. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. So you see how they're all,
That was pretty much all of them, right?
yeah.
That was all of them, starting with what was the first one there?
Well, you got honey from the beehive. So in,
Mhm.
in the constellation Cancer, you have something called the beehive cluster,
Mhm.
which is a group of stars. It's an asterism, which is like a closely knit group of stars, and it's called the beehive cluster. So there's where you get the honey. And then he gave people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. The butter and the milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy, whose center is in Sagittarius. So if you go from the beehive cluster, which is Cancer, to Sagittarius, you have the land of milk and honey.
All right. Yeah, I found that Saint Cyril is they were digging up in Egypt in 1910. J.P. Morgan was.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scripture that has Jesus morphed into an eagle or something like that.
Hmm.
Just more of a, I don't know. I think he was a shapeshifter. Could walk on water. He could
Mm-hmm.
turn things into food. You know.
Okay. If we do, well, this one, Revelation 4:7. The first living creature was like a lion, that's Leo. The second was like an ox, that's Taurus. The third had a face like a man, that's Aquarius. And the fourth was like a flying eagle, and that's Scorpio. Those are the four fixed signs of the zodiac. So
And
you have the so
the cross right there, right?
well the cross is the solstices and the equinox, is they form a perfect cross through the zodiac.
Mm-hmm.
But what this does is it forms an X through the cross, a
Okay.
perfect X.
All right. X marks the spot, I guess.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
In Revelation 12, there's another one. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. So you have a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun. So that's the sun in Virgo, metaphorically. And if the sun's in Virgo, then the moon would be directly under her feet. That makes sense. And then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. And the constellation Draco is known as the dragon. And its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky. So Draco's tail actually goes from Aries to Sagittarius. That's a third of the zodiac. So its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky.
Yeah, I always took that as like a Nibiru reference, as far as the Planet X and the dragon. But now that you explained it as like a constellation, yeah, that makes way more sense than my. Because I know that in Revelation when it talks about the water turned like red to rust, like to a rust or blood or whatever,
Right.
red like rust. Uh, it's when I don't know if you've ever studied anything about Planet X, but if Planet X was moving, it would be like moving like a comet, so it would have a tail and it'd be dragging stuff with it, kind of like how we're supposed to be moving through space like a corkscrew.
Right.
I guess that's the only way to really explain it is the sun is flying through space and we're just corkscrewing behind it, right?
That sounds about right.
That's like the only way. I mean, a lot you really have to see the visual of that because all through school and stuff, we were taught like there's rings around the sun and we're kind of on this plane that's we won't say flat, right? As far as
Mm-hmm.
the plane of the solar the solar system.
Mm-hmm.
But when in actuality we're supposed to be flying through space at an extreme speed and
Mm-hmm.
basically we're corkscrewing in the tail of Jesus right now. We are in the cloak of Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Okay.
I'm just saying it's like that's how I guess to describe it is when you describe it it's like we're in a corkscrew. So Nibiru would be coming through kind of the same way and it's supposed to have a couple planets with it which I guess would be you could consider heads. But when you explain it as the constellation, that does make me. I mean, we don't have any actual proof of Nibiru yet.
Right. It's supposed to come every 3,600 years?
Something like that. I just when ancients are talking about these stars, that's all they had to study was stars. I don't think a lot of people understand that when they turn the lights out, they see some stars, but then when the light, at night, that's all they had was stories by
Mm-hmm.
the fire and the stars, which in some places, if you can get far enough out, you can see what I'm talking about. Just the you can see the rim of the Milky Way. There's so much in the sky and so much happening. And back then, they didn't have satellites and shit like that, So anything moving in the sky was not a satellite or some
Mm-hmm.
Starlink.
Right now we have all this pollution in the air. You can't even see it. But back then they didn't.
Oh yeah, and that's all they had. They had the stars. I seen something about in your book Navajos their hair, something about
Yes.
their hair being antenna, they believe.
Mm-hmm.
What what's that about?
So basic that's in my first book. They used to what they did was basically the Indians had long hair,
Hmm.
right? The
Yeah.
Navajo Indians had long
Hmm.
hair, and they were able to sense when something was coming up behind them faster than people who had shaved heads did,
Oh shit, yeah. Hmm.
right? Because it was
Yeah.
like an extra sense.
Yeah,
You
genetically.
go back into the Bible, you talk about the story of Samson. He loses his power when she cuts his hair, when Delilah cuts his hair.
Hmm.
So they have that in there. But yeah, no, that's where that comes from. So basically, they ended up cutting their hair and they lost their power. But basically, I
I
mean,
heard.
that's yeah.
I can't remember where I heard this from, but Native Americans, when you know, I don't know if it's true how they would raise their hand and say how, or when they did greetings. I
Hmm.
don't know which every tribe did that, or
Hmm.
but that was to see if they had 6 fingers,
Really?
because the Nephilim have 6 fingers, 6 toes, like Goliath. Goliath
Well,
had
six fingers is actually a dominant trait in the human genome.
isn't
It is a dominant trait in the human genome. It's just that the recessive gene, which is 5 fingers, is a lot more prevalent. So usually your recessive genes don't really show, but you go to like the Amish all the time, where they're inbreed, the Kentucky people, they have 6 fingers.
wait, what? I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna write that down. If I, okay, I did not know that Amish people, some have 6 fingers. All right.
Yeah,
And that what's crazy is if that's a dominant trait, but that's looked at as like a mutant type
correct. Right.
deformity. But I don't think a lot of people. I mean, because right, Goliath, from the story of David and Goliath, Goliath had 6 fingers, 6 toes, and I just had heard that the reason that Native Americans would greet people that way is to see if they had the sixth finger.
Hmm. I mean, it makes sense. I've just never heard that before.
It does. Uh, then there's then we have to go into the aliens, because Nephilim. I don't know if Nephilim are really aliens, or I mean, we would be the aliens. We're
Hmm.
sleeping aliens, I would assume. And I believe, if you take the story of Adam and any truth to that about the perseverance or preservation of the blood of Adam, because that's what it,
Hmm.
it all seems to be, is preserving the blood of Adam, the pure blood of Adam,
Hmm.
uh, like all the way to Noah, because Enoch is Noah's grandfather, right?
Yeah.
Or great, because I believe Enoch was
Enoch
alive
is no
during.
Methuselah is Noah's grandfather.
And
Enoch, I think, is Methuselah's grandfather.
okay, because I think when I did like was Enoch alive during the flood?
No.
Because he lived how many years? I did this whole thing on it. I thought Enoch would have been alive. A couple of them would have been alive. Adam, I think, would almost been alive during the flood. That's what.
Well, Enoch was brought to heaven. He
Yeah,
didn't die.
Enoch was the only person the only story in the Bible from first person, isn't it?
Well, the reason I think that the book of Enoch was removed from the Bible is because it openly talks about astrology in the Bible, whereas all the other books hide them in codes like I've been giving you.
Yeah.
Like they openly talk about astrology and who taught what in astrology and who taught the patterns of the moon and who taught the constellations. And they openly talk about it in Enoch. I mean, it's still in the Ethiopian Bible, the book of Enoch.
Mhm. And Enoch, he was the only one taken to heaven. Taken, God showed, I guess, showed him what was up.
I think it's him and Elijah. Elijah was taken to heaven too.
All right, but able to come back and return and write this book.
I'm
Because
not
did
really
Enoch
sure how that
write the book of
works.
Enoch?
Uh,
Because I
I
think
don't
that
believe so.
Enoch was the only book
Hmm.
in the Bible that would have been written pretty much first person. Because even like
Uh,
Matthew and the books in the New Testament, they're written by Matthew and them, right? But they're not. But they're from hand me down stories.
Everything's a hand-me-down
It is a
story
hand
in
me.
in the Bible. Everything's a hand-me-down story.
That's right. It all.
See, the Bible's not to be taken literally on any shape or form.
Oh no, no, I wasn't taking it literally. I was just taking it as they had removed the books of Enoch, because yeah, like you said, they talk about the stars and the constellations, and they it's talked about openly. I think he talks about it in there
Right?
about.
That's sacred knowledge
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
the masses are not supposed to have.
yeah, and they call it agnostic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I it's the same with like the Vatican, you know. I mean, they hold so much information from people and people have no clue. And you can find the information, you know, but nobody wants to look for it either,
Hmm.
you know. It's well, you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
I mean the Vatican itself, the libraries and the Vatican I think needs to be completely dissolved and all the fucking libraries open.
Yeah, that would cause a pretty big problem.
Oh man. And what I mean, then again, what would people do with the knowledge really, you know?
See, that's the problem. Is groups of people are panicky, dumb, stupid animals,
Mhm.
whereas individuals are smart. You
Mhm.
know, that's the problem. Is that as groups grow, collective IQ drops. They start to speak in sound bites and catchphrases.
Start to only
That's
have
why the news. That's why the news works so well.
Yeah, the
'Cause
news is literally spellbinding. I mean, it's broadcast. It's it's right in the wording, and that's the thing is people need to learn etymology and this astrology and this old stuff to understand what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, just take Hollywood for example. Hollywood, right? If you go back to magic wands of the druids and the pagans, and they would use the tree of the holly tree, right, to
Right.
make their wands. Right there, Hollywood. It broadcast spells with the. I mean, it's right in the fucking wording.
Hmm.
It's like television. Lie is right there, right in the word,
Yeah.
and they're able to
Yeah.
use words and weaponize words, and they've got this crazy double speak shit happening right now. Here's an example. I don't know if you've heard of this COVID shit going on, but they announced that I think yesterday or the day before that if you've gotten your second shot, COVID vaccine shot, and you're 14 days out, you don't need to quarantine if you come into contact with someone with COVID, but you still need to wear a mask, social distance, and not try not to come into contact with them, right? Because
Okay.
14 days to be fully immune. Fully immune, they use those words. And then it says, but if that second shot is older than 3 months, then you must quarantine because you're probably not fully immune. Like, what the
Oh,
fuck is
wow.
happening here?
Well, that's what happens. Well, I mean, I don't really talk about vaccines or I don't really talk about politics, to be honest. But
Yeah, he does. I just seen that in the news and I was trying to read the article and I was like, what in the fuck? Like, wait a minute. So I have to wear the mask if I go get this. But then after 3 months, am I going to die? What the fuck is happening? Anyway, but there's so many hidden meanings to things just in
right.
the language they use and stuff like um I can't remember. I heard you on it might have been on Charlie Robinson, might have been on another one where you talked about the revelation of the message.
Yes, where they have to show you what they're doing.
Hmm. Where
They
they have
have to show you what they're doing, and then if you let it happen to yourself, it's your fault.
yeah, it's a code. It's not morals. It's just a code. Like these sick fucks have codes, and they gotta fucking follow them. Or I don't know, Satan gets pissed or something. I don't know who gets mad.
It's actually it's supposed to reverse their karma, is what it's supposed to do.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So they're out there telling people what they're doing, and then they're doing it.
Like straight in the face, telling what is going on, and
Yeah.
nobody's picking up on it. And take little just the meaning of the sheep and the flock and the shepherd, you know, and the blind sheep being led by the shepherd. And
Right.
they took, you know, when they first cloned, when they announced they had cloned a living thing the first time, they used a sheep, a lamb,
Right.
right? And then when they revealed that they had the artificial womb, what was in that bag? A lamb, a sheep.
Hmm.
we're definitely in a simulation. I mean, they're I'm waiting for them to come out and say, "Yeah, we're 3D printing people," which they already are because I seen an article where they had 3D printed tiny hearts and they've 3D printed tiny brains, but then the tiny brains started firing like regular brains, and they're like, "Oh, we gotta smash these little brains."
Really?
Yeah, because people don't understand how like far ahead they are than us. Yes, like medical malpractice might be the third leading cause of death in the United States of America, but that doesn't mean behind the scenes they ain't got super soldiers and shit.
Right.
They're 20, 30 years ahead of us. I seen videos of the Germans uh, and the Russians back in World War II, where they had taken and decapitated a dog and then hooked up basically bloodlines into its arteries that could pump oxygenated blood, and the thing was alive for a couple hours. How
Yeah, did they sew a dog's head on another dog?
they did it with a monkey, but it didn't live very long because they can't figure out how to fuse the spinal cord. They were supposed to in Russia. They were supposed to do a head transplant 2 years ago
Yeah, I
on a
remember
guy.
that.
Yeah, and my thing when they said that they were going to do that is like if
I
they
thought he's going to be quadriplegic.
well if yeah, because that's what they said. Their one hang up is being able to get the spine to fuse, and they said they had figured it out because they have some sort of paste that's like a stem cell type paste, I guess, that your things will go back together, which is crazy when you get into like just uh, transplants of organs and shit. But with the
Right.
head thing, it's like I thought like if they were able to pull this off, where the fuck are you going to get the bodies at?
Yeah.
Because you don't want a body that just died from cancer, right? You don't want a body that just got mangled in a car accident. You don't want a body that just, you would need like
Mhm.
suicides, or they're going to,
Even old age doesn't help.
yeah, old age doesn't help. So they would have to be 3D printing bodies. And it wasn't it had to have been in the same year when they were talking about doing this that they announced that they had did those 3D printed hearts and that they've got this, thing, this, type of cell stuff that they use that comes from like a pig pancreas and a pig cells that they
Okay.
can build basically scaffoldings to like let's say someone needs a trach like an esophagus transplant, which seems
Right.
crazy but people get throat cancer, and I seen where someone had that done and they build basically a scaffold and they put in this cellular stuff in there that then binds to the person's cells and basically builds around that like biodegradable scaffolding an esophagus. They're so far fucking ahead. Like it's
Yeah, where you think you are with like science, technology, or whatever, what they release, we're like 50 years behind what
oh,
they actually have.
we're so. I was listening to a podcast, a really big name, Joe Rogan, and he was saying they don't really. This was just like last year, and he was like, they don't really. They're not really that far ahead of us, and it's like, what the fuck kind of crazy shit are you talking about? You know for a fact that they're way Bob Light Lazar or whatever was on his show, and then gonna say, you know, that the military's technology is not that far ahead. Like Joe Rogan's losing his fucking mind. I'll have to bleep that out because we'll get fired. But yeah. So people can find you on Twitter, and you don't have.
Twitter and Facebook at Micah Dank. And just friend me, follow me. I'll reach out to you, see if you're interested in signed copies. If you're interested in digital copies, you can get them through me. Um, that's pretty much it.
All right. And you said the first three books of the series, they're out now, right?
Correct.
We
Book 4 is coming out March 15th. So in like a month.
look for. Are you going to have those on Audible or anything? You think?
Yeah, we just signed a contract to have the largest Audible producing company make them. We
Oh,
signed for the first 2 books.
really?
Yep.
That'll be sweet. I know people love the Audible books. It opens up a whole nother market for you.
Yes, it truly does.
Although I think if anybody from Audible hears this, is we should at least get the digital print when we buy an Audible book. I'm just saying,
Hmm.
you know. But I'm gonna say thanks for coming on the show, and hope we can do this again. Maybe
Yeah, for sure.
next time you can bring your PowerPoint and we can get visuals and explain a little bit deeper on the rest of the series
Absolutely.
and maybe some other topics. Not political ones though.
Yeah, for sure.
Simulation ones.
Yeah.
Simulation ones. Like you think we could be a simulation, right?
Have you read The Holographic Universe?
Mm-mm.
You got to get that
I've
book.
seen the 13th floor, and it's basically the same thing, right?
I don't know about that one.
No, I'll have to check that out. The holographic universe.
Uh-huh.
I'll have to check that one out. Because I mean, the more and more every new day, it just gets more and more that this is all a simulation, or it's all in my head.
Hmm.
It's one or the other. I believe it's all in
Hmm.
my head, and it's all a big old digital signal.
Hmm.
Sucked through my eye holes. Crazy.
Hey, man.
All right, man. Well, thanks for thanks for coming on, and enjoy your Saturday.
Appreciate it, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, later, man.
Later.